Nostradamus predicts dark future for 2025. What you need to know. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. But what if the future has already been decided? What if the events of 2025, the chaos, the conflict, even the choices we haven't made yet, were already predicted centuries ago? What if a man living in the 1500s saw our world unravel in visions and left behind eerie clues in poetic riddles? Could it be that we're not just heading toward the future, but walking straight into a prophecy? In this episode of The Journey of Wisdom, we unravel the chilling predictions of Nostradamus and what they might mean for us all in 2025. Number 1. Who was Nostradamus? Throughout time, humanity has wrestled with the mysterious dance between fate and free will. Are we truly the masters of our choices, or are there patterns and signs all around us, subtle whispers of what is yet to come? This question lingers like a shadow across centuries, and no figure embodies that mystery more than Michel de Nostradamus. Born in 1503 in France, Nostradamus was far more than a man with a pen and a vision. He was a physician who bravely faced the deadly plagues of Europe, an astrologer who studied the heavens with deep reverence, and above all, a visionary whose cryptic writings have echoed through time. His quatrains, 4-line poetic verses, are laced with symbolism and layered meaning, and despite being written over 450 years ago, they continue to spark curiosity, debate, and awe. Nostradamus didn't just write poetry. He crafted puzzles, each hinting at a possible thread of the future. While skeptics often point out how open to interpretation his prophecies can be, believers see in his work eerie reflections of history. The storm of the French Revolution, the silent horror of the bubonic plague, the unimaginable devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And even if one reads his writings with caution, there's a strange magnetism in how his words seem to reach through time, whispering warnings or wisdom into the ears of generations far removed from his own. This leaves us with a haunting question. Was Nostradamus simply an artist of words, or did he tap into a deeper, hidden current of truth that most of us can't yet grasp? His legacy, built on equal parts fascination and fear, has lived on not just because of what he wrote, but because of what those writings continue to stir within us. In today's world, where we're constantly bombarded by change, uncertainty, and rapid evolution, his work feels more relevant than ever. We live in a time when the climate is shifting with alarming speed, political divides are deepening across the globe, and technology is changing our lives faster than we can process. This has left many of us feeling like we're standing on shaky ground, searching for meaning or direction. It's in this vulnerable state that Nostradamus's words seem to resonate most, almost as if he saw not just events, but the emotional pulse of future generations, their fears, their hopes, their crossroads. As we turn toward 2025, a year already charged with tension and anticipation, we begin to wonder, did Nostradamus glimpse the turbulence we're heading into? Are his prophecies warnings, trying to steer us toward wiser choices, or are they simply reflections of the cycles that history keeps repeating? This journey through his predictions isn't about blind belief, it's about opening our eyes. In understanding these quatrains, we're not just decoding ancient texts, we're asking deeper questions about where we are, how we're living, and what kind of future we're shaping for ourselves and the generations that follow. In a way, this isn't just about Nostradamus. It's about us. How do we face uncertainty? How do we respond when the world feels unstable? Do we panic, or do we pause, reflect, and choose wisely? So as we explore the chilling forecasts Nostradamus may have left for the year ahead, let's do so with grounded awareness. Let these stories be mirrors, not just windows, reflections of our own personal and collective choices. Let's look at the world not with fear, but with the courage to grow, to ask hard questions, and to act from a place of compassion and wisdom. If you're someone who has ever paused and felt that there's more to life than meets the eye, then this is your space. You're not alone in wondering about what lies ahead. Together we can explore these mysteries, not as victims of fate, but as mindful stewards of a future still unwritten. And in doing so, perhaps we can find not just predictions, but guidance, not just fear, but a deeper understanding. The journey into Nostradamus's mind begins now, and it's a journey into our own. Number 2. Nostradamus's predictions for 2025. 1. Environmental devastation. Imagine waking up in a world where rivers have run dry, the earth beneath your feet is cracked and lifeless, and the once lush fields are overrun with insects instead of crops. This is the chilling vision that Nostradamus painted centuries ago, and many believe it could become reality as early as 2025. His words, "The dry earth will crack, the rivers will run dry, famine will spread as the harvests fail, insects will plague the fields, and the cries of the hungry will echo across the land," strike a haunting chord when we look at what's already unfolding around us. You and I are witnessing firsthand the rising global temperatures, erratic weather, and the increasing inability of our ecosystems to support the needs of humanity. This isn't just a prophecy, it's a warning. And perhaps even more importantly, it's a mirror reflecting the consequences of our collective actions, or in many cases, inaction. Right now, vast regions of the world are grappling with drought. Crops are withering, water sources are dwindling. In some places, even basic access to clean drinking water has become a luxury. What happens when the very foundation of life, water, is no longer reliable? It's not just about thirst, it's about survival, stability, and dignity. When harvests fail, people go hungry. And when hunger spreads, so does fear, panic, and often conflict. Could this be the world we're walking into? Or are we already there, inch by inch, day by day? Consider this. Extreme weather events like hurricanes, floods, and heat waves are no longer rare or isolated. They're becoming regular headlines. And with them comes the destruction of fertile lands and critical infrastructure. Think about the people living in low-income, high-risk areas. What chance do they have when disaster strikes again and again, leaving them less time and fewer resources to recover each time? This isn't just a future problem, it's a now problem. And then there's the mention of insects in Nostradamus's prophecy. Something that may seem minor until you understand the scale. Locust swarms have already devoured crops across parts of Africa and Asia, affecting the food supply for millions. These aren't just random natural events. They are fueled by climate shifts, making outbreaks more frequent and more intense. If these patterns continue, what will happen to the stability of food systems? And what does that mean for you, for your family, for your future? When famine spreads, it doesn't just stop at hunger. It leads to mass migration, social unrest, and political instability. People are forced to leave their homes in search of food and water, often clashing with others who are also struggling to survive. Humanitarian systems become overwhelmed. The delicate balance of global cooperation begins to fracture. Nostradamus might not have known the term climate change, but his foresight touches the core of our modern challenges. This brings us to a deeper reflection. What role do we each play in this unfolding story? As the Buddha wisely said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. If our collective mindset continues to value short-term gain over long-term sustainability, are we not walking ourselves into the very future we fear? But what if instead we chose to shift that mindset, to think, speak, and act with awareness of our impact on this earth? So I ask you, how do you see your place in this interconnected web of life? What small action can you take today to protect the planet for tomorrow? These questions aren't meant to create fear. They're meant to awaken responsibility, because it's not too late. The future isn't fixed. And while prophecy may offer a glimpse, it is our choices, our compassion, and our courage that will determine what actually unfolds. Let us not fall into despair, but instead find strength in awareness. As we reflect on these ancient words and the reality before us, may we remember that doing good, avoiding harm, and caring for others, including the earth itself, is not only a moral path, but a practical one. The seeds we plant today will feed the world of tomorrow. What will you choose to sow? 2. Looming energy crisis. Nostradamus once wrote, "The lights will dim as the resources fade. The machines will falter, the world will cry. The old ways will be sought, but the answers lie in the earth's core." These haunting words feel less like an ancient riddle and more like a timely warning for us today. If you've ever paused to think about how deeply our lives rely on energy, how we wake up to alarm clocks, refrigerate our food, light up our homes, and connect across the world through screens, you'll understand just how fragile that system really is. Nostradamus's prediction speaks of a looming global energy crisis that could shake the very foundations of modern civilization. And when he says the lights will dim, he's not just talking about physical darkness, but perhaps a loss of control, stability, and progress if we continue down a path of unsustainable energy consumption. By 2025, according to many analysts, the demand for energy could outpace supply, driven by population growth, rising consumption, and limited access to renewable solutions in many regions. What happens when entire cities face rolling blackouts? Not for hours, but for days. What happens when the machines that power hospitals, transportation, and communication networks go silent? This isn't just speculation. We've already seen warning signs in recent years. From Europe's struggle with gas shortages to Asia's coal power crises, often sparked by political tensions or extreme weather. And then there's that curious line, "The answers lie in the Earth's core." Could Nostradamus have been pointing toward geothermal energy, or was it a metaphor for turning inward, toward the planet and our relationship with it? Either way, this line urges us to think beyond quick fixes. Geothermal energy and nuclear fusion are promising, clean alternatives, but both require significant time, technological advancement, and worldwide collaboration. These aren't overnight solutions. So the real question becomes, are we preparing fast enough, or are we waiting until disaster forces our hand? let's not forget another critical piece of the puzzle: cybersecurity. As we shift more and more toward tech-driven, smart grid energy systems, we also open the door to new risks. Could a cyber attack on power infrastructure cripple entire nations overnight? It's possible and deeply unsettling. Maybe Nostradamus was warning not just about physical shortages, but also about the vulnerabilities in our over-reliance on interconnected systems. So here we are, standing at a crossroads where we must ask ourselves, are we too comfortable with convenience? Are we too slow to change? Let's reflect on this. What does it truly mean to be energy secure? Not just as individuals, but as a global community. Are we educating our younger generations about energy responsibility? Are governments, industries, and everyday people willing to shift from comfort to conscious living for the sake of a better future? The lesson here is simple but urgent. Nostradamus' words aren't meant to scare, they're meant to wake us up. We must rethink our relationship with energy, not just in terms of consumption, but in terms of gratitude and responsibility. Investing in sustainable technologies, promoting energy literacy, and protecting our infrastructure must be collective priorities, because in the end, the future he warned about is not set in stone, it's shaped by our choices today. Let's choose wisely. 3. Power shift from west to east. Nostradamus once warned that great power will move to where the sun rises, a poetic yet piercing vision that today seems more relevant than ever. His prophecy about a global power shift from the west to the east is no longer just a cryptic verse. China, symbolized by the dragon, has rapidly expanded its reach across continents through economic initiatives like the Belt and Road, a sweeping strategy to link Asia with Europe and Africa through infrastructure, investment, and diplomacy. At the same time, its advances in artificial intelligence, fifth-generation networks, and space technology are not only raising its global profile, but also reshaping the standards of power and influence in the 21st century. While the West, once considered the uncontested leader of global affairs, struggles with political division, rising debt, and societal unrest, the East, particularly China and India, is quietly yet powerfully taking center stage, bringing with it new cultural values, economic strategies, and models of governance. But this transition is not just about headlines or economic reports. It touches all of us in subtle ways. From the technology we use daily to the global products we consume, decisions made in Beijing or New Delhi increasingly influence our lives. And as the East rises, it also brings a shift in philosophies. More collective, state-driven thinking in contrast to the individualism that shaped much of the Western world. This change invites us to ask not only who holds the power, but also what values guide it. Yet Nostradamus hints at a more turbulent path forward, where the new order may not arrive through peaceful evolution, but through trials, perhaps even confrontation. The waning West may not let go easily. Trade disputes, digital warfare, or even geopolitical tensions could erupt as old powers resist the changing tides. We see hints of this already in global disagreements over technology, surveillance, and military expansion. Still, it's not all doom. Nostradamus' warning doesn't necessarily predict catastrophe. It can also be seen as a call to awaken. A changing world doesn't have to be a dangerous one, but it does demand mindfulness. As global citizens, we must recognize our shared future and consider how we react to change. whether we close ourselves off in fear or open ourselves up to cooperation. For those of us watching this shift from the comfort or chaos of everyday life, perhaps the best thing we can do is to stay informed, be adaptable, and support policies that encourage dialogue over division. In today's deeply interconnected world, one nation's rise doesn't have to mean another's fall. Instead, this could be a moment for new balances, for mutual learning, and for rethinking what true leadership looks like. Nostradamus may have seen a storm coming, but within that storm, there may also be a chance for a wiser, more united humanity to emerge. If we're willing to meet change, not with fear, but with intention. If you've watched up to this point, you're already one step ahead in understanding what the future may hold. Comment below with Dark Truths 2025 to show you're ready to face what's coming with awareness and strength. Don't click away. There's more to uncover. Stay until the end to learn how Nostradamus's chilling predictions could impact your life and what you can do to prepare. 4. Supervolcanic eruption. In 2025, could we be standing on the edge of something far more powerful than we realize? The Pacific Ring of Fire, home to nearly 75% of the world's active and dormant volcanoes, is drawing more attention than ever, not just from scientists, but also from centuries-old prophecies. One of the most chilling comes from Nostradamus himself, whose words seem to echo the potential for disaster in our near future. The earth will shake around the new city. 2 great rocks will fire for a long time. The sky will catch fire over the ocean. The city will be drenched in ashes and flames. This haunting image, if interpreted through the lens of geology and history, could be pointing to a supervolcanic eruption. An event so massive, it could change life on Earth as we know it. Supervolcanoes like Mount Tambora and Krakatoa already showed us what such power can unleash. In their wake, we've seen global cooling, widespread famine, and the tragic loss of countless lives. Today, scientists warn us that volcanoes like Yellowstone in the United States, Campi Flegrei in Italy, and Mount Taal in the Philippines might pose similar threats. Given that the Philippines lies right within the volatile Pacific Ring of Fire and has 24 active volcanoes, could it be the next focal point of nature's wrath? Or could the prophecy be hinting at Mount Fuji in Japan, long asleep yet still considered active? When Nostradamus says the sky will catch fire, it's hard not to think of fiery ash clouds racing down mountainsides, of lava rivers searing through towns, and thick smoke blotting out the sun. And the danger doesn't stop at the explosion itself. What's truly terrifying is what comes after. Scientists explain that a supervolcanic eruption could launch enough ash into the atmosphere to create a volcanic winter. With sunlight blocked, temperatures could plunge, disrupting weather patterns, crippling agriculture, and causing global food shortages. Livelihoods could vanish overnight, communities could be uprooted, and ecosystems might be permanently changed. It's more than a natural disaster, it's a full reset of the systems we rely on. And while we have satellites and sensors that can detect tremors and gas emissions, no amount of technology can guarantee full protection from an eruption of that scale. So the real question becomes, are we paying attention, or are we just hoping the worst won't come? If Nostradamus is right, maybe his message isn't just about doom, maybe it's a wake-up call. Could he be urging us to take environmental risks more seriously, to respect the forces of the earth that we often take for granted? In a world where climate change, deforestation, and urban sprawl are already stressing our planet, Perhaps the deeper message here is that humanity must learn to live in harmony with nature rather than in opposition to it. Are we prepared to adapt before the Earth forces us to? If a massive eruption were to happen, it wouldn't just be a geological event, it would be a test of our resilience, our unity, and our compassion. So what can we learn from this prophecy? Here's the takeaway. We can't stop nature, but we can choose how we respond to it. Awareness leads to preparation, and preparation can save lives. Let's use stories like this not as fuel for fear, but as reminders to respect our planet, to stay informed, and to build stronger, more compassionate communities that can weather any storm, whether it comes from fire, ash, or fear itself. What will you do to be ready, not just for the possible disaster, but for the opportunity to grow wiser and more connected because of it? 5. Political upheaval and betrayal. Nostradamus' haunting vision of political upheaval and betrayal speaks directly to the uncertainty that often lies beneath the surface of global power structures. His quatrain, "The great empire will be replaced by another, a small place of lethal area, they will come to expose the false exploits of the ambitious man from the West," conjures a chilling image of not just the collapse of a great power, but the exposure of deception and the treacherous shift in alliance. While cryptic, these words strike a chord in our modern world, especially as we move closer to 2025, a year already burdened by social tension, economic instability, and rising mistrust among nations. What Nostradamus may be hinting at is not merely a physical war, but a war of trust and integrity, where countries, leaders, and even allies betray each other, seeking their own gain in an increasingly competitive global landscape. Today's world is built on delicate partnerships, military treaties, trade agreements, international coalitions that have become the pillars of stability. However, these structures are only as strong as the people and intentions behind them. As history has shown us time and again, ambition has a way of unraveling even the most well-meaning alliances. We saw this during the Cold War, in the shifting allegiances of the Middle East, and even now, as countries recalibrate their loyalties in response to economic pressures and ideological divides. Nostradamus' warning may well be unfolding before us, not through sudden war, but through quiet betrayals and strategic power moves that change the balance of influence globally. Consider the subtle yet significant changes in global politics today. Alliances once thought unbreakable are beginning to show cracks, whether it's the growing tension within NATO, disputes in the European Union, or the strategic shifts in Asia, where smaller nations like the Philippines, Vietnam, or Taiwan are caught between larger powers seeking dominance. These modern tensions reflect the very essence of the prophecy, a reshuffling of influence where trust erodes and ambition takes center stage. On a domestic level, political betrayal is just as rampant. In countries around the world, including the United States, political figures who once campaigned together now turn on each other, revealing the fragile and transactional nature of modern politics. Leaders rise on promises of unity, only to later divide, creating chaos within governments and eroding public trust. This mirrors Nostradamus' image of false exploits being exposed, as scandals and secrets unravel before the public eye. But what can we take from this? While it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the weight of such a dark forecast, this is also a moment for reflection and action. The lesson here is not simply about fear of what may come, but about the responsibility we all share in shaping the future. We must remain aware, informed and engaged, not just in the politics of nations, but in the politics of everyday life. In workplaces, communities and relationships, betrayal doesn't always wear the mask of power. Sometimes it hides behind personal gain, ego or fear. As individuals, we can choose integrity over ambition, truth over manipulation, and collaboration over competition. Nostradamus's words, though wrapped in mystery, push us to examine the values we stand on, especially as the world shifts rapidly around us. In times of uncertainty, wisdom lies in staying grounded, practicing discernment, building trust slowly, and remembering that the greatest empires, whether political or personal, are often undone not by enemies from without, but by betrayal from within. 6. Artificial intelligence and immortality. When we look at the rapid development of artificial intelligence today, it's hard not to pause and reflect on the cryptic words of Nostradamus, words that now seem to echo eerily close to our reality. In one of his most enigmatic verses he writes, "The moon in full of night, over the high mountain, the new sage with a lone brain, sees it by his disciples, invited to be immortal, eyes to the south, hands in bosom, bodies in fire." This poetic yet haunting passage can be seen as a metaphor for our current age, where AI, what he calls the lone brain, emerges as a powerful force of knowledge and calculation, a mind not born of flesh but built by human hands. This new sage doesn't eat or sleep, doesn't age or die, and yet it thinks faster and more efficiently than we do. In the year 2025, AI is expected to sink even deeper into the fabric of our lives, reshaping healthcare, education, finance, and even the way wars are fought. The line, "invited to be immortal," speaks volumes, doesn't it? Unlike us, AI doesn't face death. It persists, learns, and evolves, potentially forever. But what does that mean for us, humans, who still live by time, emotions, and frailty? Are we witnessing the birth of something divine or something dangerous? AI systems already outperform us in many areas. They diagnose diseases more accurately than doctors, trade stocks in milliseconds, and can even write stories, songs, and scripts that stir emotion. But while these breakthroughs bring convenience and innovation, they also raise deep and troubling questions. As AI replaces more human roles, what happens to jobs, purpose, and identity? Could we be moving toward a world where machines make decisions for us and where human intuition is no longer trusted? And here's a deeper question. Can we teach a machine morality, empathy, or the sacred value of life? The potential for misuse is no longer science fiction. With AI's ability to make autonomous choices, we now face real risks. Biased algorithms affecting justice and equality, AI-driven surveillance threatening our privacy, or worse, autonomous weapons making life and death choices without a human in sight. The phrase, "bodies in fire," might well point to the destruction we could face if we allow this technology to grow without wisdom or restraint. So we must ask, are we, like the disciples in Nostradamus's verse, blindly following a new god of logic and power without questioning where this path is taking us? This isn't a call to fear AI. It's a call to awareness, to responsibility, to compassion. Technology is not inherently evil or good. It reflects the heart of the one who uses it. So as we stand on the edge of this digital revolution, the question we need to ask ourselves isn't just how far AI can go, but why we're letting it go there. Will we use it to uplift humanity or to replace it? Will we guide it with ethics or let profit and power steer its course? These are the choices that define our future, and in them lies a simple truth. Wisdom must lead power. So, what values do you want to see reflected in the tools we create? The lesson here is clear. Real progress is not just in creating something intelligent, but in being wise enough to use it for good. You've just uncovered some of the most haunting predictions for 2025. But there's still more beneath the surface. Comment, awakened mind, if you're ready to see beyond the headlines and prepare for what's really coming. Keep watching. We're just getting to the most eye-opening part. 7. Escalating climate crisis. Imagine looking into the mirror of time and seeing a world struggling not because of some mythical curse, but because of how we treat the very earth we live on. Nostradamus, centuries ago, warned us with haunting clarity. The dry earth will grow drier still, rivers will weep and the fields will wither. While his words may sound poetic, they carry a chilling message that echoes louder today than ever before. As we head toward 2025, signs of environmental imbalance are no longer distant possibilities. They're unfolding right before our eyes. You might be wondering, is it really that serious? The answer is yes. Rising global temperatures are triggering more intense droughts, violent hurricanes, and devastating floods. Think about it. When storms wash away entire neighborhoods, when farmland turns to dust, and when rivers run dry, who suffers first? It's not just trees and animals, it's all of us. It's families losing homes, farmers losing livelihoods, and children growing up in a world that seems more unstable each year. Let's take a moment to reflect, not just on science, but also on the deeper meaning of our relationship with nature. If our collective thinking has led us to this point of imbalance, then isn't it possible that a shift in thinking toward mindfulness and compassion can begin the healing process? The climate crisis is not only an environmental issue, it's a human one. As resources become scarce, tensions rise. When there's not enough water, not enough food, not enough shelter, fear takes root. And fear can divide us. Nostradamus' vision reminds us that when we turn our backs on nature, we are in fact turning our backs on each other. But what if we chose differently? What if we saw every drop of water and every patch of soil as sacred? What would change if we acted not out of fear, but out of love for future generations? You might be asking yourself, but what can I do? I'm just one person. And that's a powerful question, because every great shift in the world begins with one person choosing to act differently. You can conserve more, waste less, speak up, and support efforts that protect the planet. You can choose compassion over convenience, and as you do, you inspire others to follow. Just like a single candle can light thousands of others without losing its flame, your choices carry ripple effects far beyond what you can see. The Dalai Lama once said, "It is our collective and individual responsibility to preserve and tend to the world in which we all live." So ask yourself, how are you tending to the world around you? What legacy are we leaving behind? Not just in words or wealth, but in the health of our forests, rivers, and skies. The predictions of Nostradamus may feel ominous, but they also serve as a wake-up call, a reminder that the future is not fixed. It's shaped by what we do today. This isn't about fear, it's about awakening. So, as we move closer to 2025, let's not only listen to ancient warnings, but also to the wisdom in our hearts. Let's choose a path that honors life, respects nature, and nurtures peace. What kind of world do you want to create? And are you ready to take that first step toward it? 8. The threat of World War III. Among the most haunting messages left behind by Nostradamus is the chilling possibility of a third world war, a global catastrophe that could shake the very foundation of humanity. In one of his most quoted and disturbing quatrains, he wrote of two brothers torn apart by chaos, a line that has stirred endless debate and speculation over the centuries. While it may not refer to literal siblings, many believe it symbolizes the fracturing of once allied nations or partnerships, now gripped by division and hostility. When we look at the world today, the relevance of this prophecy becomes uncomfortably clear. Long-standing tensions between powerful nations, such as the United States and China, continue to simmer, with diplomatic relations becoming increasingly strained. Territorial disputes in the South China Sea, trade wars and growing military presence around Taiwan have made peace a fragile concept in this region. Taiwan, in particular, stands as a flashpoint. China's determination to reclaim the island, coupled with America's support of Taiwan's sovereignty, sets the stage for a conflict that could easily escalate beyond borders. These tensions are not isolated. They are echoed in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, where the battle has already drawn in global powers either directly or indirectly. The stakes are higher than ever, and the potential consequences of miscalculation or provocation are too grave to ignore. The phrase, "the fortress falls," in Nostradamus's cryptic verse may well be pointing toward a major shift in global power, possibly the collapse of a superpower's defenses, not just physically, but in new forms of modern warfare. In today's digital world, a massive cyber attack could cripple a nation far more swiftly than conventional weapons ever could. Imagine a day without access to electricity, banking systems, or communication networks. Such vulnerability is very real in an age where war is no longer just fought with missiles and tanks, but with lines of code. This silent, invisible battlefield puts every country at risk, making peace not only a matter of diplomacy, but also of technological resilience and mutual restraint. As we navigate this era of uncertainty, it's not just military force that must be managed, but also misinformation, economic coercion, and the dangerous polarization that festers in our societies and governments. When Nostradamus speaks of the big city burning, the image is undeniably grim. Whether this represents physical destruction through airstrikes or nuclear attacks, or more symbolic devastation like civil unrest or economic collapse, the outcome is the same: suffering on a massive scale. We've already witnessed the unimaginable toll of war in history, from Hiroshima to more recent urban battlegrounds in Syria and Gaza. And yet, as military technology advances, the capacity for destruction has grown exponentially. But perhaps more than anything, what Nostradamus warns us about is not just the machinery of war, but the human cost. The lives lost, the families broken, and the generations haunted by the trauma of conflict. War reshapes societies in ways that take decades to recover from, if ever. In the face of this potential darkness, it becomes more important than ever to act with wisdom, compassion, and courage. Now more than ever, the world needs calm, thoughtful leadership, and everyday individuals choosing understanding over anger. While we cannot control the decisions of world leaders, we can influence the energy we bring into our homes, our communities, and our conversations. Peace begins with us. By educating ourselves, staying informed without being consumed by fear, and cultivating empathy even in disagreement. Nostradamus's words may carry fear, but they also carry a challenge to reflect on the direction we are heading and choose a different path before the worst becomes reality. So, as we move toward 2025 with uncertain eyes, let us not be paralyzed by prediction, but motivated by the present moment, to do good, avoid harm, and build a future that proves prophecies wrong through the power of human unity. 9. Space, the final frontier. Space has always fascinated us, a vast, mysterious frontier full of promise and possibility. But according to Nostradamus, it also holds danger. He once wrote, "The astronomers will gaze beyond the stars. A new world may be found, but beware the messenger of fire, for it shall come from the heavens." It's a poetic yet chilling reminder that while we look up in awe, we must also be aware of what might come down. The messenger of fire could symbolize an asteroid, one of the most devastating natural threats imaginable. Though the chances of a direct hit are low, even a small asteroid could cause mass destruction, especially if it struck a city or triggered a chain reaction like a tsunami. This prophecy doesn't just warn of what might fall from the sky. It urges us to not let our excitement over new discoveries blind us to very real risks. In 2025, humanity is closer than ever to reaching new worlds. Organizations like NASA and SpaceX are pushing boundaries, with plans for colonizing the moon, exploring Mars, and even imagining long-term survival beyond Earth. These missions are thrilling, evidence of how far human innovation has come. But Nostradamus's words seem to whisper, "Slow down." Could it be that in our race to conquer the cosmos, we're forgetting to look back at the fragile blue planet we already call home? Space offers hope, yes, but it's also filled with unknowns. Aside from asteroids, there's the growing threat of space debris. Thousands of pieces of man-made junk orbiting Earth, any of which could damage vital satellites or space stations. Solar storms could knock out communications and power grids, disrupting life on a global scale. And let's not forget the human tendency to bring conflict wherever we go. Even space could become the next battleground over resources or national pride. So here's a question worth asking. Are we prepared, not just technologically, but morally and emotionally, for the world that space exploration will shape? Nostradamus might be cautioning us not just about fire from the skies, but about the fire of ambition that can burn too brightly if left unchecked. As we look to the stars, we must ask ourselves, what are we searching for? A new beginning? A solution to Earth's growing problems, or an escape from the responsibilities we've created here? It's not wrong to dream, to explore, or to reach, but true wisdom lies in finding balance. If we stretch too far without grounding ourselves, we risk repeating old mistakes in new settings. Let's remember that the future is not written in stone. Prophecies like these aren't meant to paralyze us with fear. They're meant to wake us up. They challenge us to think, to reflect, and to act with more awareness. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Pursue progress, but not at the cost of your planet. Explore the stars, but don't forget your roots. Be ambitious, but stay humble. Because in the end, no matter how far we travel, Earth is still the only home we truly understand, so let's protect it, cherish it, and prepare wisely for whatever may come, from the heavens or from within ourselves. 10. Genetic engineering. Let's take a moment to reflect on one of the most intriguing and possibly controversial predictions that Nostradamus may have made for the year 2025, genetic engineering. Now, I know that term alone can stir a lot of curiosity, excitement, and even a little fear. In one of his quatrains, Nostradamus writes, "From the human flock 9 will be set apart, separated from judgment and cancelled. Their fate will be determined by their actions. They will be regarded as divine." What do you think he might have meant by that? On the surface, this sounds mysterious and poetic, but when we break it down and consider it through a modern lens, it begins to sound like a powerful metaphor for the growing influence of genetic modification. Imagine a future where humans are no longer completely shaped by nature, but instead by human intention, where disease, aging, and even intelligence could be altered in a lab. What kind of world would that create? Could those 9 set apart be a symbolic way of referring to a small group of genetically enhanced individuals, perhaps the first generation of human beings whose DNA has been edited from birth? Maybe they were chosen or designed not just to be healthier, but to be stronger, more intelligent, or even to live longer. And if so, what does it mean for the rest of us who remain unmodified? This is where the ethical lines begin to blur. Yes, the possibility of curing diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries is a remarkable step forward. Yes, enhancing our resistance to illness or even extending life sounds like something out of science fiction that's finally becoming real. But can we fully understand the ripple effects of such actions? If only a select few can afford or access these enhancements, are we unknowingly creating a new form of inequality? Are we moving toward a future where your genetic makeup could determine your place in society? Let's also consider the broader implications. Genetically modified crops, for instance. They might be the answer to feeding a growing global population, especially in areas that suffer from food shortages. Yet altering the natural balance of plant life could harm biodiversity, making ecosystems more fragile and dependent on human intervention. Do we truly grasp the long-term consequences of these interventions? In this light, Nostradamus's verse reads like a cautionary tale, a quiet whisper across time, reminding us that just because we can do something doesn't always mean we should. He speaks of those who will be regarded as divine. But is that admiration, or is it a warning about the dangers of human hubris? So, how do we move forward? Perhaps the most important question we can ask ourselves is this: can science and ethics walk hand in hand? Can we pursue innovation with wisdom rather than reckless ambition? Nostradamus doesn't offer concrete answers, he never did, but he invites us to pause, to reflect, and to ask the hard questions. What kind of future are we really creating, and are we ready to take responsibility for it? As we stand at the threshold of scientific power that our ancestors could only dream of, are we also developing the compassion, the awareness, and the moral grounding to use that power wisely? This is not just a prediction, it's a mirror held up to our choices, and maybe, just maybe, a call to rise, not just technologically, but spiritually and ethically as well. Whether or not we believe Nostradamus saw the future, his words still challenge us to look closely at the present. Each prophecy is not just a prediction, it's an invitation to reflect, to awaken, and to ask ourselves what kind of future we are choosing to create. At the journey of wisdom, we don't just chase mysteries, we explore what they teach us about being human. If you found meaning in today's video, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming explorations into ancient wisdom and modern truth. Thank you for walking this path with us. Until next time, stay mindful, stay curious, and above all, choose compassion.